Check. Let's see. Make sure it's working. All right. Hello, everybody. All right. Today, I wanted to go over with you some tips on adding dynamics to your playing. Because especially when you're playing the acoustic guitar by yourself, it's nice to be able to add some dynamics to your strumming, to your playing in general, to be able to just add more layers of depth and things like that to make your playing sound better when you're playing for other people. Okay. And that's going to be the case a lot of times. That's what's great about the acoustic guitar is you can play it anywhere. You can play it by yourself. You don't need to be plugged in. So a lot of times when you're playing the acoustic guitar, you're usually either playing by yourself or you're playing with maybe one or two other people, something like that. Okay, that's usually going to be the situation when you're playing with the acoustic guitar. So in that case, it's always better if you can, if you don't have, you're not going to have the luxury of a drummer or a piano player or an electric guitarist in the background to add those dynamics for you. So you need to be able to do it yourself to be able to just bring your playing to the next level, okay? So that's what I'm going to be talking to you about. I'm going to give you 6 tips to add some dynamics to your playing. Before I do that, I just want to mention, if you have questions for me, if you're watching live, you can ask your questions in the chat section. And I will try to get to as many as I can before we're done with the lesson today. Okay, awesome. So let's see. First thing that you can do to add some dynamics is going to be volume or intensity of your strumming. Okay, let me back up a little bit and kind of explain in terms of rhythm and measures and beats and things like this. If you've ever played with a metronome, that's going to be the most basic form of setting a measure, setting the tempo, right? That's what we use metronomes for. And if you've ever set a metronome, an electric metronome, where you have the option to select time signatures. So some metronomes, like on a phone or something, will let you choose your time signature. So let's say 4/4 time or 3/4 time or something like that. If you select one of those, what's going to happen is the beats or the clicks. One click is going to be a higher pitch than the rest. Okay, or it might be louder than the rest. Okay, so the first beat or the first tick is going to be boop, and then the rest are boop, 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 right? And so that louder pitch or the higher pitch beep is the verbal indicator for you that a measure is repeating. It's starting over again, okay? That the rhythm is going to be repeating again, okay? So that is the most basic form of setting rhythm or setting measures. And a lot of times, though, with music, we don't play along to a metronome. If you're playing with a band or if you're playing by yourself with a guitar, you're not going to have that beeping in your ears, or the listener is not going to have the beeping in their ears to know when are these measures repeating. So we do that with our instruments. Okay, so whether it's the drummer, usually will be the one to set that repeating pattern. Okay, but if you don't have a drummer, you need to be able to set that rhythm on the guitar, and you do that by adding dynamics. And one way to do that is volume and intensity. Okay, so if you've ever watched any of my videos, you've probably come across the driving pattern. It's one of the most common strum patterns. It's a 4-beat strum pattern, and you'll notice that we have volume shifts or intensity shifts happening within the pattern. Okay, so on the driving pattern, we have a stronger, louder strum on beat 1 and 3. So every other beat, we're strumming louder, okay? So if I just mute my strings and play it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that louder pitch or the louder sound, the more intense sound on 1 and 3 is helping this pattern to be more interesting for listeners. Otherwise, it's like this. than the other way, okay? So again, the dynamics are going to make it more interesting for listeners to listen to you play, okay? So again, that's one way, is adding volume and changing volume. And again, you can do that within a strumming pattern itself, within one pattern, one strum pattern. Let's see. No, this is not pre-recorded. I see somebody's asking. This is not pre-recorded. This is live. So if you have questions, feel free to ask. Again, going back to the measures, you can add change in volume or intensity immediately within a measure, or you can do it throughout the whole song in terms of changing volume throughout the entire song. So let me give you an example. So let's say we're playing a song, in music, your songs are broken up into pieces. So you have a verse, you have a chorus, you might have another verse, you might go to a bridge or a pre-chorus, another chorus, and then an ending or something like that. So you have these pieces, these segments of the song. So within that, you can add dynamics. So in the verses, you can play softer, right? You can strum softer. When you get to the chorus, you can strum more full and make it loud. And then when you leave and you go to the bridge, you can bring it back down, bring the volume back down. So again, volume, you can adjust it throughout the entire song to make those rises and falls in volume, again, just to add more quality to the music. Okay, so that's tip number one, volume and intensity. Okay, within the measures itself, within the strum pattern itself, or within the whole song. Okay. Second tip is pitch, and by pitch I mean like the note or the the high or the low. So you have a high E and you have a low E. Okay, both an E, just different pitch. Okay, so you can vary the pitch of the music that you're playing to add another way to add dynamics. Okay, so let me give you a couple of examples. So let's say for the folk pattern, great example. The folk pattern is another strum pattern, and actually this one is on my strum pattern cheat sheet. If you've gotten my 3-step guide, you've come across it already. If you haven't, you can go to the website simplifyguitar.com and get it there. It's free, 3-step guide. There's 3 strum patterns I teach on there: the driving pattern, the folk pattern, which is I'm going to talk about now, and the swing pattern. Okay, for the folk pattern, we do something at the very first beat of each measure. We play just the root note of the chord. So let's say we're playing a G chord. The root note is a G note, and that's going to be on our E string right here. Okay, so for beat 1, we're playing that. For beat 2, we're playing everything else. So we're playing all of this higher pitch stuff down here. Okay, so we have low, high. Okay, and then 3 and 4 and okay, so it's kind of going back and forth: low, high, low, high. Okay, so that, again, we're changing pitch back and forth within that strum pattern itself. Okay, so again, that's changing pitch from a lower pitch to a higher pitch. Now I'm going to take that idea and I'm going to move on to the next tip of adding dynamics, which is palm muting. Palm muting is a great way to add dynamics both with volume and pitch, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's say we're playing a song, and usually palm muting is going to happen in faster, more upbeat songs. Okay, so let's say I'm playing an upbeat song, and usually what I'll do is I'll do palm muting for the verse, and then when I get to the chorus, I'll start strumming full. Okay, and what that does is it adds that dynamics again in volume and in pitch, and I'll show you what I mean. So for palm muting, we're muting the strumming. We're muting what we're doing with our strumming hand, with the palm of our hand right here. And I'm just going to be strumming like the top 2 or 3 strings. So let's say I'm playing an E. I'm going to be strumming up here. I'm not strumming like the bottom B, E, and maybe even the G string. So I'm staying up here. Okay. And because I'm muting it with my palm, it's also lower in volume. Okay. So we have 2 things going on. We're playing a deep sound because we're at the top. So it creates that variation. Now when we go to the chorus, we can stop muting it, let it ring out, and we can strum all the strings. And so it's going to increase in volume, and it's going to have a different pitch. Okay, we're going to be down here. So again, if I'm holding that E and I get to the chorus, I can go to a full strum. Okay. So again, that palm muting is a great way. And then when I leave the chorus and go back to the verse, I can go back to palm muting again. Okay. Again, adding those dynamics. Okay, so that's palm muting. That's a great way to add dynamics. Another way is to do finger picking. And I have a few song tutorials on my song library that have some very basic finger picking patterns. And one of them is Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers. And that one uses what's called, or what I'm calling the inverse picking pattern. So it's 1, 2, 3 picking. It's 3 down with your thumb, 1, 2, 3, and then 3 up with your index finger. Okay, so that's the inverse picking pattern. We're going back and forth. Okay, so again, this is something I like to do a lot with slower songs. Is I'll pick it with my fingers in the beginning, and then when we get to a chorus or something, I'll go to full strumming. And this is a really cool tip. You can actually keep your pick in your hand like this. Okay, in the crease of your finger. Right here, you can fold it over, and you can pick with your fingers. And then when it's time to strum, you can just put your pick in your hand and go into strumming. Okay, it takes a little bit of practice to get used to it, but it's a great way to alternate within a song without breaking the rhythm, to go from finger picking to full strum. Okay, so I might let's see. Time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much. Are you still mine? Okay, so I can go from picking with my finger to strumming with my hand. Okay, with my pick, I mean. Okay, so again, that's going to be bringing it up in intensity to a chorus or something like that, making that alternation. So that's another way we can add some dynamics. All right, so far, if you're just joining me, talking about adding dynamics, and so far I went over volume, change in volume or intensity of your strumming. We talked about pitch, alternating the pitch from low down here to high. Okay, we talked about palm muting, adding that palm muting for a verse, and then going to full strum for the chorus. We talked about finger picking, doing finger picking for softer songs, and then maybe going to full strum with your pick when you get to a chorus or something like that. Okay. All right. So that's 4. Yes, that's 4. All right. So now I'm going to go to number 5, which is alternating chords within a song. Okay. So for instance, let's say we're in the key of E and we have our E chord. And these chords I'm going to show you right here are part of the chord family cheat sheet, also part of the 3-step guide. So if you want to learn these, you can get that again on the website, the 3-step guide. So it's the E. This is part of the E chord family. We have E, A2, B suspended. This is a power chord. We have a C sharp minor. We have an F sharp minor and a G sharp minor. So those are our 6 chords in the E chord family. All right. So with that in mind, what we can do, if we could play a song using these chords down here on the low register, low end, and we could play this for, let's say, like the verse. Okay, E, A, B. Let's say we have E, A, and B for a song, which is very common. Okay, E, A, B. All right. Now let's say we get to the chord. Instead of continuing to play down here, we can play a different E, A, and B higher up on the fretboard. Okay, so instead of playing this E, I can come up here and play this E, which is an E power chord. And instead of playing this A, I can play this A. Okay, and instead of playing this B, I can play this B right here. Okay, so E, A, B. Okay, so what that does is it's changing the pitch of the types of chords that I'm using. So again, let's say, I'll give you a good example. The song Nothing is Impossible by Planet Shakers. We start off with, for the verses, we have E, F sharp, A. This song Nothing is Impossible is in the song library. So if you want to go look it up, I do some palm muting in there. So that's what you can do for this song, a chord like this. You can do, you can palm mute in the verse, and then when you get up to the chorus, you can go full strum and up here. Okay, so you're adding a bunch of different layers there of pitch, volume, all of that stuff is being added in. So we're low pitch, palm muting, soft, and then we go to the chorus, we're higher pitch, full strum, loud. Okay, making that shift. Okay, so let's see. Somebody's asking what's the A chord there. So there's this A chord, which is A2. Okay, so I've got my third and fourth finger on the second fret of the D and G string. Okay, the other A is up here. Okay, which is my first finger on the D string. What is that? The 7th fret, and fourth finger on the G string 9th fret. Okay, and you remember for A string, for the A chord, whether you're doing A2 or this one, you have to start your strumming on the A string. E is not part of the A chord. Okay, so you got to start there. There's another A, which is here. Let's see. Here, this is also higher up. This is the B. This is the A. Also has a pretty sound to it. So that shape is the same power chord shape as the B and C sharp and the high E here. Same power chord shape, it's just higher up. You're moving it up a string. Okay, so the first finger is on E, third and fourth finger are on A and D, and they're 3 frets apart like this. And then you take your middle finger and you're going to put it down on the G string in between, on the fret in between. Okay, so that's your B. That's an A. It's also that A. Okay. So those are some different variations. So let's say I'm playing the song Nothing is Impossible. I'll start off down here. Not gonna live by what I see. Palm muting. Not gonna live by what I feel. Deep down I know that you're here with me. I know that you can do anything. I'm getting the chorus. Through you, I can do anything. I can do all things. Okay, so I jump up here for the chorus, and then when I get back to the verse, with the palm muting. Okay, so again, it's making it so much more interesting to listen to than if I just did. Right, and just made everything mellow and the same the whole time, right? So much more interesting if you can add these dynamics. Okay, let's see. So that's alternate chords. Let's see. So also another way, that's number 5. So here's the last tip, number 6. What you can do is change up or vary the notes that you're strumming and the type of strumming, okay? So first of all, just a minute ago, when I was talking about the palm muting, where we're changing pitch, right? So we're strumming these, and then down here we're strumming. We can also strum down here, okay? You can strum all 6, or you can separate it and break things up. The folk pattern, which I talked about a second ago, is a great example of that. We have low, high, low, high, low, high. You know, so we're going from low to high, things like that. So that's changing up the notes that we're strumming. And even with one chord, you can do that. You can change the notes that you're strumming. You don't have to strum all 6 strings. And that's one way, another way to add dynamics. Now, in terms of strumming, you can alternate the strum pattern. Now, this gets a little bit more complicated, especially if rhythm and strumming is complicated for you in general. But you'll notice on all of my song tutorials, I give you the strum pattern and I have it in black and white for you. Strum down, 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 up, down, and all of that stuff is written out for you. And that's great when you're learning, when you're trying to wrap your mind around strumming and stuff in general. But it's important to know that those strum patterns are not rules, right? A song doesn't have a strum pattern to it, okay? It has a time signature, but it doesn't have a particular strum pattern that you have to use, okay? So if a song is in 4/4 time, you can do all kinds of stuff with that. You don't have to do the driving pattern. If there's a song in my song library that says driving pattern, that is the easiest pattern for you to play. And if you're not familiar with strumming, just do that one, right? But it's important to know, once you get comfortable with strumming, that you can break away from this stuff. You can use the driving pattern as a foundation, and then you can alternate it. You can break it up, okay? So let me explain. In music, there is your time signature, which is 4/4 time, which I still can't wrap my mind fully around what all that means. But there's 4 beats per measure. That's all we need to know, okay? So in a measure, you have 4 beats or 4 quarter notes, okay? But it doesn't have to be that way. You can change it. You can cut the quarter notes in half and make it half notes, or you can do whole notes. And if you're playing the acoustic guitar, you're not playing rhythm. I mean, you're not playing lead, right? Or you're not playing the melody like on a piano. You're playing rhythm. But even still, you can change how much you're strumming. So if I'm doing the driving pattern and I set a metronome, okay, the metronome's clicking, every click is evenly spaced apart, and it's letting me know how fast the song is, okay? If I do quarter notes, then I'm strumming for every single one of these beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, but I don't have to do that. I can do whole notes, and I can strum 1 time for every beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that would be a whole note. I can do half notes, which is strumming twice for every measure. Okay, so every other beat, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, if I double that, we're at quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can double that again to eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't do this and this at the same time. But eighth notes would be twice as fast, right? Like this. Even though the tempo is the same, this isn't changing. Okay, I can even double that and do 16th notes. Okay, now the thing is, though, it doesn't, you're not going to do 16th notes for a whole song, right? But you can break it up. You can add a little bit of 16th notes at one part of the song, right? Or you could do a whole note. You can go to whole note strumming for the bridge. And so you can add these bits and pieces of strumming in there to alternate things and to make it more interesting. Maybe when you go into the chorus, you can do some 16th notes right before it, right? So let me, again, going back to the song, Nothing is Impossible. So right before I get to that chorus, I know, let's see, I know, what key am I in here? Not gonna live by what I see. Strummings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. I'm strumming 8 times per measure instead of 4. Okay, so that's eighth note strumming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then maybe right before I get to the chorus, I can throw in some 16th notes. I know that you can do anything through you. So I just threw in some 16th notes there. Maybe when I get to the bridge, I can break down to whole notes. Okay. So let's see. I am living by faith. Here comes the bridge. Nothing is impossible. I believe, I believe. I believe, I believe in you. So right there, I just broke it down to whole notes. Okay, or maybe I could do half notes instead. The point is, I don't have to stick to the strum pattern that this song says. You can alternate it as long as you're staying within the time signature of the song, and you're sticking with the tempo, right? Then that's all that matters. You can alternate it. Now, if rhythm is confusing for you, don't try to do this right now. Just know that it's available to you. You don't always have to stick to one strum pattern. Once you begin to wrap your mind around rhythm and strumming in general, then you can begin to try to break away. I would say the easiest thing to do would be to drop down to whole notes. If you're doing the driving pattern, when you get to a certain part of the song, you can drop to whole notes. And try to vary things up like that to make it more interesting. Cool. Awesome. All right. Those are my 6 points. Again, recapping here. Let's see. Where did I put it? Here it is. Okay. So going back over, number 1, volume, intensity, and changing the volume of your strumming. Okay. Strumming softer, strumming louder, doing that throughout the song. Pitch, changing the pitch from low to high, both within a chord and within the whole fretboard. This E, okay? That's, again, going back to the point number 5 on here, alternate chords, changing different kinds of chords that you're playing within a song. Let's see, there's palm muting. So palm muting, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So palm muting like this to add a change in pitch and in volume. Finger picking, same thing, changing intensity. I just talked about alternate chords. And then the last point is changing the type of strumming that you're doing. Cool? Awesome. Let's see. What's this song called? That song I was just playing is called Nothing is Impossible by Planet Shakers. You can search it on the song library on the website, and you can find my tutorial for it. Cool. Let's see. Let's see. So you can use, yes, let's see, Avalon. Can I use that kind of strumming in your tutorials? Yes. If it doesn't throw you off, you can do that. So if I'm playing, like if you listen to this song, Nothing is Impossible, you listen to me play it. Again, I'm doing the Hyperdrive pattern, which is, you'll see on there, it has 8 beats, right? 8 strums before it repeats. And that's eighth note strumming. Okay. So it's the song's in 4/4 time, but I'm strumming 8 times before it repeats. So I'm strumming twice as fast as the tempo. Okay. So if I'm doing that, you can play this song different. You can play it, let's say, with quarter notes. So I'm not gonna live by what I see. So I could play it like that, it just doesn't feel that great. It doesn't feel the same. But if you're playing with me, or if you're playing with someone else, let's say somebody else is keeping that driving tempo going. That's why I do the hyperdrive pattern, because it's clear for the listener, right? So if I'm playing that and you're playing on top of me, you can play quarter notes or you can play half notes. I'm not gonna live by what I see. That would be half notes. You can play whole notes. Not gonna live by what I see. Okay. So again, yeah, you can change it up like that, and it works. So let's see. Awesome. Where do you go to learn chords up and down the neck? That's a good question, Gene. I don't remember exactly where I learned these. I think I just learned them from different people that I knew throughout the years, would just teach me different chords. I'm not sure exactly where I learned these, to where I could point you in any specific direction. But I would say you can always learn the cage system. The cage system is a fantastic system for being able to play anywhere on the neck of the guitar. If you are a seasoned guitarist and you have experience already, and you're comfortable with bar chords, then the cage system is a great next step, right? You can find tons of lessons on the cage system on YouTube and things like that. And I go over it in my beginner course with my students in there. But again, you've got to be able to play bar chords to do the cage system. So if bar chords intimidate you, don't start there. Start with the chord family cheat sheet, the 18 chords. Those are no bar chords at all, and you can play hundreds of songs with those 18 chords. That's a great place to start. If you're a beginner and you're intimidated by the guitar, don't try to make it even more complicated by doing bar chords, okay? You can get to bar chords later, all right? Let that be the next goal. But again, if you're comfortable with bar chords, do the cage system. It is a great way to unlock the rest of the neck of the guitar, okay? And these power chords that I just showed you are based off of bar chords. Like this E is based off of, let's see, this bar chord E, like this, right? It's just a power chord version of it, which is just like an open chord. It really only works in the E chord family, playing these open chords like this. Okay. Sean, what is the hyperdrive pattern? Go check out this song tutorial, Nothing is Impossible, on my website in the song library, and that song uses the hyperdrive pattern, and you can get a good idea of what it is. But basically, it's a driving pattern. So we're driving with all down strums, and then an up strum after beat 8, and then it repeats. The emphasis is very important. Where you put emphasis, it needs to be on 1, 4, and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's very important, because if you don't do that, it's going to throw off the timing, the time signature. Emphasis is very important. That's a whole nother lesson. But emphasis is very important. If you don't get the emphasis right, it can change the time signature and make it very hard for people to know what time you're in. Are you in 4/4 time, or 6/8 time, or 3/4 time? So getting the emphasis right is very important. Let's see. Yeah, palm muting is difficult for me, yet they look so simple. Is there a certain hand placement? For the palm muting, you need to use this part of your hand, and it has to be for faster songs, because it's important that there's something constantly happening with your hand. Okay, you can't just do a one palm mute. It doesn't really work that way. So it needs to be a constant. Okay, and so what you're doing is, as you're strumming, you're muting the strings with your palm. It's still resonating a little bit, but it's very subtle, right? It's more what palm muting is doing is it's more creating a like a beat. That's kind of the purpose of the palm muting. It's keeping the rhythm going. You're kind of trying to replace the drummer with palm muting, okay? And with a little bit of notes in there, right? Is hitting the strings, my palm is hitting the strings at the same time. And just as fast as my palm hits the strings, it's coming off the strings, okay? So I'm not leaving my palm there, otherwise it's just completely muted. And there's no sound at all. So you want to release, you got to release your palm so that things can still resonate, okay, after the fact. Cool. Sean, where did I learn the hyperdrive pattern? I just came up with that name personally. I mean, other people use that pattern, but I don't think they call it that. Every pattern that I have on my song library, I just came up with those names. Those aren't like names that you'll find anywhere else. The patterns you probably will. I mean, these patterns are universal and are very common in terms of like a foundation that you can build off of. To tell you where I learned the hyperdrive pattern, I don't know where I learned it. Again, I mean, it's just been years and years of playing with other musicians. I'm not exactly sure who taught it to me, but it's just it's used a lot, especially in faster songs. So songs like "Nothing Is Impossible," which is a very upbeat and fast song, and there's other songs like that are faster and require like fast, intense strumming. That stuff like the hyperdrive pattern is great for. Okay, again, that's an 8-beat pattern. I can't think of any off the top of my head, any others off the top of my head, but I do know that there's more on my song library that uses the hyperdrive pattern. I just can't think of any others. But if you want to take a listen to a song that uses it, go check that one out. Let's see. Great. How long have I been playing? I've been playing for probably 17 years now. I started playing at my church when I was probably about 13, but I wasn't like, I only knew like 1 or 2 chords at the time. And the other guitarist that was on the team would teach me everything. They'd give me a new song and I knew nothing about the song. So they'd have to teach me all the chords and everything. So that's how I learned. And I loved it so much. And I had the pressure of playing in front of people. And that's great pressure to make you learn and to make you push through the sore fingers and keep practicing. So I had that pressure of playing in front of people, and that kept me learning and learning and learning. And doing it on my own and keeping myself persistent in my practice time. So yeah, that's how I learned. Cool. Awesome. Well, all right. That's all I wanted to go over. So I will sign out now, and you guys have a great week. And I'm sure I'm going to do another live lesson soon. I don't have one scheduled yet, but I'll do one at some point. Until then, you guys take care, and I'll see y'all later.